Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you. My name is Tim Harris. It's 10 o'clock. It's time for Tim with Tim. I'm aware of the fact that for whatever reason, right now, uh, like I'm sitting here looking at my phone because this little red light comes on in the corner, like right there. Little red light comes on. It tells me when it's recording, but apparently you're seeing me before I know you're seeing me. So I sit here like a dummy, and I'm sorry. Like there's nothing I can do. I can't possibly know when you're seeing me if it's not when that light comes on. So anyway, if I'm sitting here staring at you like a dummy, that's what I'm doing. I'm sorry. That's just technology, y'all. But anyway, I'm Tim Harris. This is 10 with Tim. We go verse by verse of the Word of God, and we're in Numbers chapter 13 today. After all the time we spent in Numbers, when nothing, nothing ever happened, it's happening now. It is on. So, I told you Numbers is structured geographically, and so we've gone from Sinai to Kadesh Barnea, and that's where we send the spies into the promised land. Now, God brought the slaves out of Egypt for the purpose of giving them the promised land, promised to Abraham back in the day, right? I mean, this is their land. This is it. Numbers, I forget where we're told. It's 11 days journey. I forget it's Deuteronomy or Numbers. It's an 11 days journey. I think it was in Numbers. I won't go back. I think it's in Numbers. It's an 11 days journey from Sinai to Kadesh Barnea. So you should have got here in 11 days. Now, it's been longer than 11 days. We've had a lot. From what I can tell and from what I think scholars say, it's from right here, Numbers 13, where we start sending the spies in. It's been about 2 years and 2 months since the Exodus. So again, we've had the golden calf. We had to sit around 7 days and wait for Miriam to get done with her leprosy. I mean, so this all should have taken less time, but it took the time that it takes, and it's been 2 years to make an 11 days journey. Can I just say, some of us could spend our whole life in an 11 days journey. We get stuck in and honestly, that it's mostly let's just say it's on us. God would have taken us and blessed us and used us, but it is we ourselves who drag our feet, who get distracted, who get off the path. I mean, some of you, your whole life has been an 11 days journey that's taken you 60 years, because we don't know how to listen to God, because we don't follow, because we're not obedient, and on and on and on. So the fact that this 11 days journey took 2 years, 2 months, I mean, that shouldn't surprise you. That's about how we follow, right? But as you know, it's about to turn into a 40 years journey because of what happens here. This scouting report right here that happens in chapter 13 is a pivotal moment in the history of God's people, in the history of Israel, and it's devastating. It's just devastating. It starts out promisingly enough, though. Chapter 13, verse 1, Moses said, I'm going to send in some men for reconnaissance. They're coming in to take this promised land. God's already said, I'm going to give it to you. So now they're just going to send in spies to scope it out, figure out how do we come in. The people living there aren't necessarily going to give it to us, so how do we approach this? So sending in spies, that's just smart. So we send out 12 spies. It's one for each tribe of Israel. And I love to read the list because I think it's number 1, 2, 3. Number 3 is Caleb, son of Jephunneh. He's representing the tribe of Judah. We don't necessarily know much about him or know who he is at this point. He's just in the list. And then Hoshea, son of Nun, representing the tribe of Ephraim. Hoshea. And then it just tells us Moses started calling him Joshua. And so Hoshea and Caleb, Joshua and Caleb, their names aren't even next to each other in the list. I think that's kind of funny because these two men will forever be connected because of this story. I don't know at what point they found each other. Like if it's on the first day of school and you're sitting there in this room full of losers and you look across and you see your new best friend, you're like, hey, you're my person. Let's stick together. I don't know if they did that. They just looked around and said, man, these other dudes are losers. We better stick together because they're going to be wet blankets. I don't know. But it's just neat how they just sort of come in, not listed together, and then forever after that, it's always Joshua and Caleb. Joshua and Caleb. So Moses gave them instructions. He's just sort of saying, hey, go check it out. He gives them some things to look at. Look at the soil, look at the people, look at the towns, look at the military establishment, look at the crops. Just check it all out, y'all. See if there's any good restaurants, find out what the price of gas is, just check it all out. And so they did. For 40 days, they explore the land. And it mentions that they see the sons of Anak, and that the ancient town of Hebron is there. I love that. Hebron, of course, is where Abraham lived. You all, like Abraham used to live there. That's this is the land that God promised, Abraham. Hebron was Abraham's town. And so what you see here, that just slipping that in right there in verse, what is that, 22? It's just a way of saying that this isn't so much about conquering something, and taking it. This is just about, receiving what God's already given, God's given this. Hebron is where Abraham lived. You know what I'm saying? So it's just receiving what God already has given, what God's already promised. And so they find a cluster of grapes. I mean, grapes are big as volleyballs, bringing them back on a pole and all of that. It's everything that God had promised. It's everything that you could have imagined. And so verse 25, they come back and they start bringing the report and they say, yeah, it sure is pretty there. It sure is pretty. It's everything and more that we hope, but we're never going to get to live there. I mean, this is what these dummies come back. 10 of them come back and say, yeah, it's pretty, man. It's not. I wish y'all all could have seen it, because you ain't never going to live there, because the people there, they're giants. They're so big and powerful. No, they're not. They're not, Like in Sunday school, when I would first hear this story, I imagined, well, they must be giants, but they're not. I mean, we read the story later when they go into Jericho and, it's Rahab, the prostitute. She ain't an extra tall prostitute either. She's just an ordinary height prostitute. I mean, they're just people. They're not giants. They're just people. We saw the descendants of the Anak, the Nephilim, no, you didn't. You just saw people. You just saw people. But you saw people through the lens of your fear and your insecurity, and that made you see people weird. It made you see them in ways that are not true. The people are like giants and we're like grasshoppers. That's a lie. That's a lie. But please understand, a lie that you accept as true will operate in your life as if it is true. And so all of this is wrong. And Joshua and Caleb saying, what are y'all talking about? That's not true. They're just people. Let's go get it. We can take it. We can have it. We can have it tomorrow. And they're like, no. And everybody listens, They listen to the naysayers. We saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. Next to them, we felt like grasshoppers. And that's what they thought too. Okay, that is so dumb. That's what they thought too. Did you interview the giants? Did you pull the people aside and say, what do you think about it? No. But this is what, I guess it's what the Bible calls the fear of man, the fear of man, We are so, I call it the grasshopper syndrome. I see myself as some sort of grasshopper because I compare myself to other people. And when I see their excellent, impressive qualities, I automatically, I add to them and subtract from myself, So I see them as literally better than they are, more perfect than they are, and myself more flawed, more imperfect than I am, The thing is, I see myself behind the curtain, so I know what I am behind the scenes. I know my insecurities. I know my flaws, my faults. I know how hard I have to try sometimes to make up for my stupidity and my shortcomings. But I look at you, I look at other people, and I don't see them behind the scenes. I just see them in front of the curtain, So everybody looks like a movie star. Everybody looks like their life is, everybody looks like it's going according to plan, And so we do that. We compare our behind the scenes to their in front of the curtain. And it's not a fair comparison. And that's why God says, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be afraid. And, if God is for us, what can man do to me? I mean, that's what the scripture says. My life is in God's hands, not in the hands of people. But in this particular moment, the people of God forget that God is in control. They forget that God has promised. He forgot that God told them not, go decide if you want it or not. God said, go take it. It's yours. Go take it. Do you want it? It's yours. But they instead turn this into more like a multiple choice, and they decide no, and the choice is going to be devastating. We'll pick up right here because the story picks up as the people hear the report, and then they just, oh my goodness, they make a decision that's going to affect the lives of their children and their children's children, and everybody else for generations to come. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, what in the world are we doing when we look at people and we forget to see God? We forget to look at God. Take your eyes off people, keep your eyes on God. We'll pick up right here tomorrow. We'll do chapter 14, verses 1 to 25, okay? I just want to keep preaching. I love this story, but let's stop right here and come back to chapter 14 tomorrow. We even saw giants there. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You just saw people through the eyes of your fear, and it made you completely paralyzed by fear. Oh my goodness. Pick up here tomorrow. I'll see you. Listen, have a great day, and I'll